I heard this thing, and it talks about how you should meditate for an hour every day unless you're really busy, and then you should meditate for 2 hours a day. And I think with the breathwork thing, how we questioned it, it's like if you're questioning whether you do something or not and you know it's good for you, you should probably be doing it.
My friend's mum meditates for like 4 hours a day, but I kind of go, where do you have that time to do that? And also, in my eyes, I kind of go, I want to live a bit. If I spend all this time meditating, I feel like finding a balance of, is it helping you achieve all the other things that you'll want to do in your life? Or is it getting your mind off all of the noise in life? And so you can just be with be at one.
But I guess it's like, because if you do something but you're not actually present in doing it, are you really doing it? You think about it, if you're doing something but you're kind of 80% in, 20% out, are you actually doing the thing? Where maybe if she can center herself or get to a point where she does it, she's like 100% in that thing, and that might take her 4 hours of meditation to get there.
Apparently she would meditate all day if she could.
Really?
She had like she has like this thing on her property, which is like they built this hut just for her to meditate.
It just goes in.
Just loves it.
Well, that's like that retreat you went on. Like, how impactful was that on you, going to that retreat and not having your phone and actually being able to be in your own thoughts for, when was it, a week?
Yeah, it was for a week, but it's not a life though, but it's a really good it's good forced time on yourself. In fact, it's probably, you would never get the outcomes that I got if you did that program at home, because there's a combination of going out and doing it in nature, without any social media, without any service, quite frankly. But then you're tying that on top of that, you've got all the people around you. So there was 11 of us in that retreat, and they're all open-minded, vulnerable, and we're all around a circle sharing. So it kind of encourages, you know what it's like on a podcast, when you open up and share more about your story, the guest is more willing to share theirs. And so it's kind of, when you're in a community, in a vibe like that, in a retreat, you get that same act, but you're all going deep, asking hard questions. So the vulnerability level is quite open and deep. And it's kind of like one of those things that once you what happens at the retreat stays at the retreat, sort of thing.
Yeah, this is me, but it's in like a safe place where you can actually be you.
You just feel comfortable because you go, all right, everyone else here is here for a reason. They're trying to get the best out of this. And the best way we can get the best out of this is by being open and honest, because the energy that you give off and everyone gets from being open is quite powerful. And I think it just compounds as the days go on, and then you get to the end of the week and you feel like you're best friends with all these people and you don't want to leave because the connection you build.
Well, it's the vulnerability that gives you that connection. And I think we all assume that everyone's so different, and then you actually start putting how you feel out there, all the things that are good and bad in your life, and everyone goes, oh, I deal with the same thing. And then you actually connect with those people through that. And I feel like you would feel that on probably a broad scale, because I was looking back through Instagram the other day, and it's funny, like, say Chris Griffin, the overnight success. I know you love the saying, the overnight success, but it's funny how far back, like I went right back through your profile where it started, and you go back and see all these times of like being vulnerable, putting videos out 2 to 3 times a day, doing all this effort. And it's not until like it pops off and you actually become the person that people see, that then you actually get those connections with people. But it's like, you have to put yourself out there over and over and over again with no one clicking, no one caring, no one liking. And then suddenly it starts to hit, and then it's like people connect with you through the vulnerability. But there is that point that you have to put yourself out there when no one cares.
You need to, and you also need to remove yourself from the outcomes in social media and focus on the outputs. And it's funny, I say that and people go, okay, well, I'll focus on the output, meaning I'm going to post a lot of content. And I'm not going to worry about the result, because that's what you're saying. Yes, you're true. What I'm saying and what you're saying back to me is is correct. But the other thing on this, which is the most important thing, is your content needs to get better.
Yeah.
If you just keep making shit content, you can't expect it to go well. And when you look back at those videos, they're shit. They're so bad. I'm with a whiteboard and I've got a ring light shining in my eyes and I never blink, and literally, and I've got these rings in my eyes, and I'm going like, and I'm just this broke guy trying to figure it out. I'm like, here's what you need to do to make money as a young kid. Like, I was giving it a crack and I was putting it out there, and that's all that mattered. But what I made sure I did was I made sure that the content gets better. You spoke about overnight success though. I love this term because most people have this overnight success story. And the thing is about overnight success is it's not a thing. Overnight success is not a thing for the most part. It's just what happens is things compound and it's not a linear journey. And you do all of this, and because you're so shit, it's compounding at such a slow rate. And then you get better and better and better, and then it compounds at a little bit of a better rate. But then all of a sudden, when you're this big, instead of this big, when it compounds, it doubles there, right? And then all of a sudden, it's like this, and once you get like in a groove of things, and you know what people want, it just keeps going and going and going. And this is how people blow up all the time. And with me in the content, when I was blowing up, I was throwing so much shit at the wall just to see what stuck. And then I found something that stuck and I honed in on that. Because I'm like, okay, well, that's what people want to see. Let's do it. People like that. Let's do it. And then I did that, and then it blew up. And so, yeah, it's an interesting one, overnight success. All the part of the iceberg below the water is all part of the overnight success. It's just part of the iceberg that people don't see.
Yeah. And you kind of you don't want them to see it. They don't have to see it. But it's nice when you actually go back and you're like, no, I've been grinding at this for a long time. Like if you go back through the Inspired and Unemployed Instagram, like they were making shit videos for years before they like took off. And it's like all that work goes into it. But why, like, what was the driving factor behind wanting to blow up or like wanting to post the content you did? Because I know you told me you had a mentor that said you should post 2 videos a day, and you just went, oh, he said you should post a video a day, and you said I'll post 2. Yeah. What was your why behind that? Why did you go, okay, I'm going hard at this?
Just before that, I want to just talk on how you were saying like it's almost like you don't want people to see all the past stuff, or they can see it, but it doesn't matter. You kind of need all those shit videos.
Yeah.
What it actually does, it's a self-esteem thing. When you post so much shit and you see how much you progress, then when you blow up, you feel deserving of it.
Yeah.
And so you've earned this. You can sit there and go, I fucking deserve this. And that's the thing that's powerful, is because when I get all this traction and get all this success in social media, I can look back and look at those videos, and I can look back at the ones that aren't even on social media, like a video I filmed of myself for a job application for some retail job that I was trying to get on the side of me trying to make this stupid tech business, right? And I looked at that and I go, I look no good. I'm young. I'm giving it a crack, but that video is shocking. And an example, the reason I bring up that example specifically is because Industry Clothing, for example, what you're wearing now, reached out to me the other day, and that used to be my favorite brand. I'd only buy stuff from Industry, and they reached out and they want to. I'm going into the store and they're kidding me out today, just because they like my stuff. And I sent the guy who reached out to me on Industry, Charlie. He literally was the guy I sent a job application to 3 years ago when I was trying to get a job for them, and it was just trying to work at the retail store and get paid $20 an hour, whatever it is. And I sent him a video resume and I didn't get the job. And I sent it, it was the same Charlie because he signed off on it, and I said, no way. So I sent the guy, after he was offering me all these clothes, the video of me 3 years ago saying, I'm not sure if you remember this, but it's all these things in the journey that give me confidence and make me proud and deserving of the things that I have. But I'm going to go back to your question now, which you asked me where the drive came from. And The drive comes from grade 12. I've spoken about it a lot in podcasts before, but when you looked at those early videos, the content was about like foundational education, like fundamental education, like things that people can do to help bridge that gap from school to the real world. That's basically what I was doing, and it was called Prime University. That's what the page was. It was helping prime kids into the real world. And then I was trying, and the reason for that and all the drive was because I lost all my friends in grade 12. And I've spoken about this so many times, so I'm going to skim over it just in respect to all the regular listeners. But I went from being this cool kid in school that had all the friends, captain of the footy team, to no one would answer my calls, no one would hang out with me. And it was because I switched from being this cool kid to focusing on business. And I went to the state school and everyone goes like, Mr. Businessman, what do you want about? And I remember I got a year down the line after leaving school when I had raised all this money for this business at a $800,000 valuation for this software business that me and my best mate was starting. And they all come back to me and go, yeah, I've dropped out of my degree. I'm a bit stuck. And they ask for advice. And I was like, this is flawed. Like, this is horrible. There's only one friend in my school that is still in uni 12 months later. Everyone has dropped out or deferred. And I'm going, okay, there's something wrong with this. And so I went on this massive journey of, okay, I want to help people in that phase. That was prime uni. So that's where the motivation to start posting and helping people really started. And then naturally what I just tried to do with all the content was make it relevant to my life. And then I went through a breakup last year and it sucked. I hated it. But I was learning so much about relationships because I just seeked all these answers. And when I was learning all these things, I thought, that's the same time, Lewis, my mentor, goes, post every day. Okay, what am I going to post about? All right, all my content before had been me speaking to camera. I'm not going to speak about how to invest $1,000 of your money into personal development. Let's talk about the relationship. That's interesting. So then I did that, and then that's when it blew up.
How was it, you said, when you left school and you kind of lost all your mates? What was that like in that period of time when you were by yourself?
It was fucked because, like, I only had Sam and we had only really just met. He was this weird guy at footy that no one really liked, and I was the cool captain guy. And he was the one that asked all the questions and stuff, and it was just weird. But then we were forced to spend time with each other because we were both injured and we were on rehab together. And then he was telling me about some of the stuff he was doing in business, and I was going, wow. He told me he just dropped out of school when I wasn't very good at school. I was just run amok. And I was going, he's a straight A student, but he's dropped out of school. What's going on? So I was really intrigued by that. And then I just leaned in, and he just told me to get this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I went and got it and read it straight away and would meet up for coffees and highlight parts of the book and all this stuff. I didn't even like coffee. I remember we went and got coffee. I'd never had one in my life. And he was like, what coffee do you want? And I was like, I'll just get what you're getting. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I was 17 at the time. And yeah, in the next minute, it just went all into business. And it was fucked because I lost everyone except him. No one, literally, and I know this sounds crazy, but like, no one would answer my calls. No one would hang out with me. And then like 2 months later, Sam gets a job opportunity in Sydney and he leaves. And then so now all I had was Sam on FaceTime. And that was it. And
what's the biggest lesson you learn in that time when you're by yourself? Because that's when you really figure stuff out.
Yeah, well, the thing is I was just so obsessed with growing in business and personal development. Ask anyone in that time of my life, absolutely anyone, how I was day one of grade 12 at school to when I graduated. And it's two completely different people. And I remember I was so excited about all the stuff I was learning. And I was 17. I thought I was going to be a multi-millionaire at 20. So naive. But the naivety was literally what
you still want to believe that though. Like you want to
100%.
Like you're better off believing that than you're going to be some high, like
100%. And the thing is about that is it literally, this naivety was the thing that allowed me to go, oh yeah, let's go. And we were doing everything. We'd go to every single free event possible. and get business cards made out and hand them out and network with all these people. And then that led to one thing. And then I got a job through someone I met at an event because he was speaking at the event. I waited till everyone left, and I was a 17-year-old kid, and I would go up to him and speak to him. And then all of a sudden I'm working for him, getting paid pennies, but I didn't care. And then it just kept progressing and progressing. And then when I moved to Sydney, Sam and I were sharing a bed, and we're in this little studio apartment, and we're just trying to figure it out. But that excitement back then was just like, it's gonna work. We're gonna make it work, and that's what was so cool about it. And I look back at it and I go, they were some hectic times. We had to throw the bed out. The bed got moldy. The pillows, we had to have this dehumidifier thing in our little studio apartment, and it was one of those things that would fill up with water, could like dehumidify, and we had to empty the bucket of water every day. That's how moist the room was. The pillows were like damp when we'd sit on them, sleep on them, and we were sharing this mattress on the floor in the corner. And the crazy part about this is, and this is why I keep telling this story about how quickly your life can change. That was 4 years ago that we were doing this. Like, that's it.
Yeah, from where you've gone to where you are. I think that's the thing, man. It's like everyone looks at, and I always try and bring it back to where you were not that long ago, because you see so many people when they're successful and you go, oh, you've had it easy, or you're lucky, or you're gifted, or you're talented, or whatever these things may be. And then you just go back a few years and you go, oh, actually, you were on you're on your ass. You had nowhere, you had no plan. Well, you had a plan, but you didn't have any funding. You didn't have any kind of direction. You were kind of like, I want to do this thing, but it may or may not happen. And then you see how quickly you can go from that to then completely changing your life.
You build the plane on the way down.
You got to hustle, man. Like, that's one thing I guess I've seen in you, which I try and take away, is just hustle. Like, just, okay, you want to do something, do it. And I feel like I've had that mindset a lot of my life, but then you see other people just getting after it and doing it, because I think so often we know what we need to do, and for whatever reason we sit on it and we go, oh, like, I'll wait for like the perfect time, or I'll wait for something to happen, or someone, or whatever it may be, and then that opportunity will go. And it's like, if you don't jump on it straight away, even if you jump on it and it doesn't work, well, okay, tick that off, go on to the next. And like you were saying then, like, you're handing out business cards to people, like when you're 17, like you actually putting yourself out there, even with the videos and stuff. It's like, people might say, oh, you're just doing a video, but I'm like, you didn't do a video. You didn't put that out there. You didn't like cop the, like, obviously praise and judgment that comes with doing that. And putting yourself out there, especially when you're going through a relationship and it's not going well, like, that's a lot to like broadcast to the world when you're obviously not in a good spot. And that's why people connect with it, because it's real. But it's like to put it out there and actually have people see that when you're in a vulnerable state and go, this is me. And then have people go, oh, like, grow up, or, oh, this is actually really impactful and this is helping me. Like, you have to deal with both of those factors. And then people go, oh, well, that's easy. But like, well, you're not doing it.
You know about that, when I started posting relationship content, the first video that blew up was me going, it's time to let go, dude. You've been hanging on to the past for way too long, or something. I was like, oh no, it was something about like, no, the one that blew up was, as much as you want to call her, don't do it. And as much as you want to see her, don't do it. It's over, man. It's time to move on. And the more you do these things, the longer it's going to take for you to move on. And it was like this video about not calling her and not seeing her. And I remember I was making that for me.
That's what I mean.
I had 200 followers. Like, I'm not thinking this is going to go viral. I'm just going like, I'm making these videos for me. And the crazy part about it is I made that video, filmed it in my car, and I'm not looking too happy when I'm filming that. Then I go and see my ex straight after it. I made the video, edited it, went and saw my ex, hung out with her. And then when I was leaving her house, I showed her the video I was about to post. I remember I was like, I'm posting this tonight. And then I remember I showed her and she's like, are you actually going to do that with me, like not see you anymore, sort of thing. And I remember I'm just going like, here I am, like I never thought girls like this existed. I literally was so amazed by this girl. I still am so inspired by by my ex-girlfriend, but I was so amazed by her. I didn't think people like that existed, had that character. And so when that kind of ended, I just went, fuck. I started getting into my head and going like what next? Like now all of us, how am I going to find someone like that again? And I just think the content was for me, and it just so happened to resonate. And it's funny, I reckon I listen to my videos more than everyone else does that has them on their favorites sometimes, because I'm making these videos based on what's going on in my life. And I think because people can feel that, that's why they work so well.
I know that feeling, hey, when you say something and you almost need I need to listen to myself.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're saying, like you are doing that for you. And I think so many times where I'll share something that I think like I would like other people to do as well, but it's like, it's for me. Like this worked for me, or I need to hear this right now. And you see it, and you saw it with the ex. But how was that when you actually went and saw her? Did you feel like it was almost like it was conflicting because you were seeing her, but then you're telling everyone else you shouldn't? Did that feel like a bit like, am I doing the wrong or the right thing here? And did you stop seeing her after that?
Yeah, I did kind of take a bit of a step back after that. And it's funny because when I look back at it, I took these, I stopped speaking to her as much. And the thing is as well, when I look at it, and look, it's probably not the case, but I'm in my head. She was probably here and I was probably here. Like she's one of the biggest models in the country, killing it, and I was just some guy that, I don't know, like I was just giving it a crack. I was posting some shitty videos online. Don't get me wrong. She was like, I was into business and was very switched on, and I was very confident in myself too.
But what's this scale? Like, what's the scale that you're referring to where you were?
I'm just saying, like, where I'm getting at with this is the whole story of like leaving. I'll explain.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was like this. She could get someone better than me. That's it. She definitely could get someone better than me. And what were you going to say?
When you say better though, in what way?
In terms of like status and money and all of these things. And I know that's not all that matters, but for a lot of women, I feel like that can mask a lot of the times. Whereas like, and obviously obviously I'm not shooting myself in the foot and pushing myself down, but I just think where I am now as opposed to where I was is very different levels of a person. And I just look at it and go like, when I was posting all of that content saying move on, I think maybe I had her a bit more on a pedestal, and it was a bit like I valued it too much. And then what happened was I let go of it all and stopped speaking to her. And then at the end of the month, I had over 100,000 followers on social media. And I remember I hadn't spoken to her at all. And she calls me up and we have a FaceTime call, and she's in London or something. She'd moved. And she goes, because the last thing I said to her when we stopped hanging out was, I'm going all in on me. That's what I said. And then anyway, we stopped hanging out, and she calls me a month later and she's like, fuck Chris, you weren't joking when you said you were going all in. And then I was like, yeah, I'm just getting started. And then it just kept blowing up and blowing up. And now it's funny when you look at it and I feel like when a girl can see that you've got so many options now, they just want you even more. And you can see that. I'm not sure if you've experienced that before as well. But like when they can see that you have options, they kind of are drawn to you more. They don't want you to be dependent on them.
I think that goes both ways for sure, man. But I think it's maybe not even the options, but I think it's just attractive when you're focused on you. Like when you're just like, I'm so solely focused on making my life the best it can possibly be. And this comes back to the whole garden analogy with the butterflies and stuff. It's like when you're just working on you, like that's when you attract people. And when you're, like you say, you're looking for something or you need something, it's like, I think back then you probably felt like you needed her, to feel happy, or you needed her to feel like love, or whatever it may have been. But once you're like, I'm going all in on me, and you start focusing on you, and you're like, oh man, I control my own happiness. I can pull happiness out of all these other things that I'm doing. You're like, oh, I actually don't need that person. As much as I like being around them and having them in my life, I don't actually need them. And once you do that, and someone knows like that they're not needed, they kind of feel like, oh, maybe I do want to come back. But I just find it funny there where you said the thing about where you saw yourself. And I know, like you're saying, like money, status, all these other things. I'm like, do you think your values would have been much different back then than they are now? Or are they being very similar?
Yeah, I think they're very similar.
So
I think I kind of want to retract all of the stuff I just said.
but you know what
I'm thinking about it, yeah, because
Yeah.
what's going on in my head is in that moment, I think what happened was I didn't think I was bad. In fact, I thought I was quite and attractive in terms of the characteristics that I had. But I think what I did was I just valued her too much.
Yeah.
And so, like, because when I look at it, like, the things that she was attracted in me was not my looks. It was not my, like, definitely wasn't my looks. She was taller than me. So and for someone that's in the limelight like her, dating and the big model, like dating someone that's shorter than you, like it's a public image thing, right? So it clearly wasn't that. But when I look at it, I think I go, yeah, the values were still the same. I was still this intelligent, like smart guy, really fascinated by business, have a lot of depth, and all the things that I was saying now, I probably still was having these different thoughts back then. And I was very curious and I was very passionate. And so all of these things was definitely why she was attracted to me, 100%. So when I look at it, I go, I think maybe what I was doing, I wasn't devaluing myself. I was just valuing her too much.
Yeah.
And feeling like she's a rare breed.
Because think about it. Would you want to go for a girl that just wants to go for you because you live in a nice house and have a bit of money?
Well, this is the whole thing now, where I'm scared of meeting with people that know me.
Yeah. It changes their perception.
Because they treat me differently when
Yeah.
I just want to be a normal person because I am.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it?
Like I literally I've spoken to you about this, but I downloaded Hinge not because I needed to find girls on Hinge. I get DMs every single day, but it was because the fact that all the girls that are DMing me know me on socials, and I don't want them to treat me differently when I'm with them. So then I downloaded Hinge for like a few months or whatever, but then I realized that I can't be meeting girls on Hinge. I'm not finding my wife on Hinge. And then so I deleted the Hinge, and then all of a sudden this energy switched where everything started flooding in as soon as I deleted Hinge. So it's an interesting thing. But yes, I get scared now when people are there for the everything else that I can do, not me, what I can do for them.
Yeah, well, it comes back to how you viewed like the status or the money or the like whatever it may be. It's like once people start viewing you for that and not Chris, not values, not who you actually are as a person, like that's a weird thing to like battle with, because you're meeting someone, you're like, who do you think I am and what are you trying to get out of this? And I think once you have that thought process, then you'll show up different as well. So now you're both kind of battling between how you show up in a relationship or how you show up seeing someone. Like you almost just want to meet someone off face value and they have no idea who you are, you have no idea who they are, and you have a general conversation with them, and then if you like each other, you like each other. Like I'm not with girls, but I know like back when I used to race, like people would treat me differently because they knew who I was. And it's weird because it's like you don't know if someone's a bad person or a good person because they're obviously going to alter the way they deal with you because they look up to you in some way or they like idolize you in some way. And like you said, you just want to meet someone that like you like me for Chris or you like me for Dean, and then the rest doesn't matter. Like I know whenever I'd meet people out and they would ask me like what I did, sometimes I'd be like, oh, I just ride bikes or something, but I wouldn't pump it up, and I wouldn't like to show people the Instagram or anything like that, because then it's like subconsciously in our minds, if you see someone that has a big following, you are automatically, or like it just changes something in your brain about how you see them. And I think it makes you put them on a pedestal, even if it's a small one or a big one, it changes that factor. Where if you have no idea and you meet someone and they're just a really good, nice person, you're like, oh, you're just a really good, nice person. And that should be your perception of who they are, not, oh, you've done this or that. Because I guess it's nice when you see someone successful because, you know, oh, they're probably, it's like when you see someone fit, they're driven, they're healthy, they're disciplined, all those characteristics are very visible when you see them. But then it's like with the social media thing, it's like, did you blow up posting some like one funny video that went viral and blew you up, or did you actually be grinding at this for like years and years and years to get you to this point? It's like you don't really know. So then it's like, where do you put yourself on a scale? Like,
but with that though as well, which is interesting, I think it's just a time and place and who you're speaking with. Because if you're speaking with someone that is super successful, they can't help but think like someone that has like being able to show the audience or what you do is going to make them take you more seriously because and I know you're saying like if someone just blows up off one funny video or whatever, but the likelihood of that happening is very low. A lot of the time people have been at it and they've been
you're a hocteur girl.
Yeah, unless you're, but it's still that I go like, and this is the thing, even if you blow up off one video, you're doing something right if it's your face because they probably could drop off a cliff, right? But she's got something about her that people actually are interested in. She won't drop off. I reckon she'll drop off from being the most known person in the world, but I reckon she'll just keep doing other little things and growing because there's so many different things that go into play here. She's gorgeous. She's a good-looking person. She's got this gnarly accent and like a cow. She's a proper cowgirl. And I think when you tie in that with her little bit of humor and laughter, you can go places. And so I kind of look at all these different things and go, there's a time and place for when you share your success. But I think when it comes to dating, like hiding that as much as you can and just getting them to judge you based on your actions and how you are when you're with them is so important because when a girl sees security, they see success, they see status and money and all this stuff, they can't help but think that's going to make my life better. I just think that it's a natural instinct. It's not a bad thing for them to think that. And so if you can hide that and that becomes a bonus to them really liking the person you are, I think that's where the success in the relationship can be.
Yeah, it's like a cherry on top. It's like you want them to see you for you first, actually like that person, and then the rest comes along once they actually like that person.
But then again, the fit body, it's like, okay, what does it take to get that? And also if someone's fascinated in me, if I go on a date and they're really intrigued by my depth and passion about things, they can look at my social media and it's precisely that. I have depth in conversation and I'm very passionate about the things I talk about. And so like hopefully I can reenact that without them having to see my social media. Then when they see my social media, they go, okay, it all makes sense.
It's all coming together, yeah.
Yeah. And that's kind of the way I took dating. Whereas I was seeing this girl recently and she DM'd me on Instagram. But the thing that actually made me so interested was she DM'd me back in the day before I had any followers. I remember I posted one video on TikTok of me sitting in a car just out of the beach about pain and pleasure, yin and yang. And it got like 20,000 views or whatever. And I gained like 1,000 followers on TikTok back in the day, like 2-3 years ago or something. And she followed me on Instagram off that video 3 years ago. And I had like no followers on Instagram or anything. And I was chatting to her back and forth for ages. We never met. But then she DM'd me again like a week or 2 weeks ago. And for some reason, because she had DM'd me when I had nothing, I was so interested in her.
Yeah. She's not just jumping on the bandwagon now. She
was interested years ago.
She was a day oneer.
Yeah, and there's something about that which is really cool.
Well, I guess this comes back to you kind of have to filter out certain people in your life once you get to a certain level of fame. And you were talking with Adam Sullivan recently, and you're talking about his circle of people around him and how he's like quite hesitant letting people in. And like that's a real thing because it's like, why, again, like guys, girls, anyone, why are you coming into my life and what do you want out of this? And I'm friends with one of his exes that he still stays in contact with. And it's like those people in his life that he knows like him for him. This isn't the toxic one. This is one that very, very good friends still. And it's like those people, like you for you. And it comes back to that girl that was talking to you when you had nothing. This girl was obviously attracted to him when he had nothing. And it's like, you, I think, would like to hold on to those connections because you know this is a real person, this is a real friend or connection or whatever it may be. And I think as you get more famous, those things are harder to actually tell the difference, because it's like how much are you here for me and how much are you here for what I can do for you? Like how much you just want the rub. Like, and the more famous you get, the more you'd feel that, because more people want to be a friend. Hey Chris, what's going on? How you been? It's like, who are you? Like, where did you come from? Kind of thing. And like, it's not like you don't want to be friendly towards them, but your filter for what's real and what's fake becomes quite, like, I guess, blurry in a way. And this is on a small level. Obviously, the more fame and notoriety you get, the harder that would be. And someone like Adam would probably feel that way more, especially on the Gold Coast, of like, who do I let in and why?
Well, he said to me over text he has concrete walls up right now.
Yeah.
Which is like, I get it though. And it sucks, but I get it. I just get it. And all it takes is meeting with a few people and then realizing that they're not actually there for you.
No.
And it's just, you can tell by the questions they're asking and the way they're poking at certain things. And it sucks. And I wish it wasn't the case. I wish I could just meet with everyone and treat everyone the same way. But it does get hard sometimes. And I know it's only going to get harder the more I grow. And especially when I'm trying to be the biggest. Like, I know there's a cost with that and there's a cost with everything. But I also know the impact that I can make. And I've already made the decision in my mind that weighs way more than the cost of having the fame. And that's why I'm on this journey.
So one thing people don't tell you is, I love this line. I'm trying to think of it. It's maybe J. Cole. He's like, there's beauty in the struggle, ugliness in the success. And it's like everyone strives to be great or strives for success, and then they get it. And it's amazing, don't get me wrong, but there's so many negatives that do come with that. Like, again, like the isolation from people, the like that in between of who's a real friend, who's a fake friend, no one really being able to relate or compare with what you're going through. And it's like these things come with success. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying don't strive for that because it's great, but you've just got to understand that it isn't as beautiful as it may seem when you see people in that position, because it's there's bits that are hard with it still.
I think just understanding that every single positive has a negative.
Yeah.
Every single one. It's a pendulum swing. If it swings that way, it's going to swing the other way. And everything in your life is like that. And like with success and going on this lonely journey, because it's not, and I was chatting with Toby about this yesterday or the day before, it's not loneliness in the sense that you're not getting enough attention. It's not loneliness in the sense that you don't have enough people around you. It's the fact that no one understands you. You have no one to relate to. There's no one that you can just ring up and just go like, and they can just tell you, look, man, I get it. I know the feeling. And if you choose this path that's less walked, yes, that's a cost that you have to pay. But the cost you have to pay to not do that is living a mediocre life. And that sounds like the most unfulfilling and horrible thing you can possibly do. Imagine getting to your deathbed and you're looking back at the life that you lived and you're going, fuck, that was pretty average, eh? I didn't give it a crack. There was all these things that I wanted to do, but I never did them because I was too scared of what other people were going to think. Imagine being in that position. If you put yourself in that position, think about how you will feel. Because if you keep going at the rate you're going right now, that is how you're going to feel when you're dying. Shit. You're going to feel horrible. And like, don't think that that's a maybe. It's exactly what's going to happen. It's precisely how your life's going to pan out if you keep not taking any risks, not giving anything a crack, and just saying yes to everyone that doesn't even matter. And so I just look at that and go, whenever I'm in a tough time, that's the alternative. Like, you want to achieve some level of significance, or do you want to just hide in the crowd and have no one compliment you for anything unique that you're doing? Because that's a good feeling, by the way. When you get a compliment for giving something a crack, it feels fucking awesome.
Even if it fails.
Yeah. And they say, I told you so. But the one time that it wins is the only time that matters. And in that time, they are wrong.
It's funny, like Alex Hormozi talks about when he had like 9 businesses that failed. He's like, I started one, it failed. I started another one, it failed. And everyone's like, I told you so, I told you so. And then it's not until it wins. And it only takes that one to win, that thing to pop off, that video to go viral, that job to work out, that girl to say yes. Like all that just takes one. It's like all these people get so caught up in all the no's, all the no's, all the no's. And then you get one yes. Or you get one thing to blow up and it's like, oh, okay, now I'm successful. Now it's working. Now I'm happy. Now it's all these things. And it's like you had to go through all that shit to then get to that point.
You get this little win and you think, oh, it's all good now. We're sweet. But then you come across another hurdle. And then you come across another one. And then you get another win and you're like, fuck yes, I'm finally going to be able to chill out for a second. And then you go, actually, no. This doesn't mean shit. I can't make a cent from this.
Yeah.
And then you go to the next thing, you're like, fuck, finally. And then you get nothing again. And you're like, fuck, back to the drawing board. And
that's where that resilience comes from. And that's where that thing before, how you said you're doing these videos and you look back now and they suck. I look back at videos I did with the podcast and what I was saying and I was like, dude, that is so bad. But I'm glad I look back and I would hate to look back 5 years ago or 3 years ago or 2 years ago and be like, oh man, that is exact, like I haven't changed at all. Like, what do you mean? Like you want to look back at yourself and be like, I've leveled up from that person. Otherwise, like you say, you're stagnant, you're stale, you're in this one spot. Like you want to look back and go, oh man, like I'm so much further ahead of where I was then. And that's so much better because I actually am growing. Where if you just look back all the time, like that's exactly right. I'm so right then and I'm so right now. And I'm going to keep pushing that message. Obviously some like basic messages stay the same, but as a whole, you should always be like evolving from your flawed self and keep growing your flawed self because like we all have flaws, but like as long as you're trying to get better and make those flaws go away, then you're doing the right thing instead of just getting stuck in this one position. But like you said, it's like you need to go through that. You need to post a video to get no views, to get no comments, to get no likes and go, okay, what do I need to do that's better so people will engage with this? And then you put the work in and do it. And then
you get 100,000 followers and you still can't make a cent. And then you get 200,000 followers and you can't make a single cent. And then you go 5 months down the line and all this credit card debt and you still can't make any money. And everyone tells you every single day how amazing your life is and you're helping save my life. And you get 100 of those messages every few days and you still can't make 1 cent and you make $0. And then you realize, fuck, all right, like I thought this was going to be it. I thought I was going to have all these followers and all this audience and then I'm going to be a baller. Life is sorted. And then you go, nah, it's just getting started. I think the more successful I'm getting, the more emotional I'm getting because in happy ways, more happy emotional I'm getting because of how deserving I feel for the things that I achieve. Because of how much shit I've gone through where I go, holy fuck, I do not even know how I'm making it out of this tunnel. And it feels like the tunnel's getting smaller and smaller and darker and I can't see the end. But I know that the only way is forward. And I'm only there by myself and I just go, fuck, how the fuck am I going to do this? And I've gone through so many of those. Some are really long tunnels. And then now when you start to get little levels of success, you feel so deserving. And it's this type of feeling that I can't really explain. And I think that's why I get emotional when I think about some of the stuff there. Because it's fucked. And that's why when Will and Meg came in the other day and we went and had coffee beforehand and they were explaining their story and I didn't feel it in the moment. And I got in my car and I just started breaking down on the way here. I just started fucking tearing up when we were driving to the pod studio before the podcast because I'm like, holy shit, I know where they are. I know how they're feeling and I know how fucked they are. Like, I know how hectic that is. And I just remember get in that car and I'm in that same car that I've filmed all these videos of me crying in that are in a vault that I haven't opened since I filmed them. And I'm driving to this podcast studio about to film with this married couple that are going through it right now, financially, business-wise, struggle, loneliness. And I just felt this thing. And I remember I got out the car and I walked in here and there was like, fucking you guys were shooting these bikini models and stuff. And I dropped my bag and walked back out. And And Will and Meg walk up and I just give Will this massive hug and give him this hectic pep talk. Just like one of my videos you'd see online, I gave it to him and I genuinely meant it in person before this podcast. And I just go like, that is those moments, and that moment that you're going through right now is what's going to make those highs so amazing. And I draw back on all of those hard times and I just go, holy shit, like I actually can sit here and be so proud of all the things that I've ticked off, because no one has experienced how much shit that I've been through. No one knows how much hectic stuff I've been through. They just see this amazing stuff that is happening now. They're starting to see a little bit of success, and I'm starting to see it, and I just feel so deserving of it. But all those shit times is what's made this so high. It's crazy.
Do you think in those times when obviously you said you're starting to feel it, how have you had the reaction of like people around you with, I'm going to kind of like, you know, the whole like tall poppy syndrome thing? How have you felt with other people seeing you succeed, and how's the reaction been from people?
It's funny because, well, it's not funny. It's just a saying.
Yeah.
Stupid thing. I've said that like 4 times in this podcast already. So it's one of those things where I know they mean it. Like when someone says that like you're killing it, you're doing well, I know they mean it. Like that's the reality. But you can't help but question, did you have any belief when I was really stuck and I was making shit content? And that's why when you always have people that have reached out to you years ago and have always been there, they like you kind of have this extra level of respect for them. But also, and I think we spoke about this the last time we did a podcast about, like, you can't get mad at people for not checking in on you and all this stuff. Everyone's living their own lives. Everyone's busy. And also, when you're on your grind and you're trying to make something work and you've not achieved any level of significance, I don't blame people for not reaching out to you. What's there to reach out to you for? Congrats on giving it a crack, mate. Keep going. Yes, you would love to hear that, but that doesn't go in people's mind. And so I kind of look at it and go, yes, like the question was, you're asking a question about tall poppy syndrome, but then also people coming, saying stuff around you. Yeah. The tall poppy syndrome is obviously like people tearing you down in a bit. I feel like that's what you're referring to. Yeah. Hey, because there's still people now that I get told secondhand from other people, well, like they're shit talking things, or you shouldn't be hanging out with that person because he has a bad reputation. You're going to ruin all this stuff, or why are you posting about this? You shouldn't talk about that, and all of this stuff. I just don't have any time for it. I just don't care. And the reason for that is because everything that I'm doing is so true to me, and the things that I'm saying is me, and everything I believe and the things that I'm saying, like, I mean it. And that's why I think the podcast has done so well. It's because when someone says something I don't agree with, I don't just go, yeah, and go along with it. I go, okay, I don't really agree. Let's talk about it. And even that's why our last pod went so well as well, because people loved the fact that we were debating a little bit. And I think if you can be your true, authentic self, and when something isn't you, you speak up about it, not only are you going to be more successful, because people are going to be like, you're actually a real human being. You're not just a puppet. And then also you're going to, like, the tall poppy syndrome is not going to affect you as much, because you can look within yourself and look in the mirror and go, I am me and I'm deserving of this. So, yeah.
Because you mentioned the other day you had a friend that you guys had a bit of a falling out, and I just wonder if part of that reason was to do with, because you know when you see someone succeeding and they're succeeding, especially in a space where you're trying to succeed, I felt this a lot from a good friend of mine when we were competing racing, and I started to do really well. Like I was doing well, and then I got better, and he was trying to do well, and he was kind of a little bit behind, I guess, and somewhat in the shadow. Also, his dad played a role because his dad idolized me a little bit and would kind of compare me to him and like, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And I think that got in his head a little bit. And because of that, he started to resent me, and our friendship fell apart because of that. And I just see that sometimes now in people, and it's like, I've got to catch myself because I know it's bullshit. it's like and I can relate this to even stuff that you're doing, and it's like catching myself to be like actually just generally happy. And it's like when I look at stuff, when like even just say like the other day when you came in, you're like, oh, I've got this and I've got this, and I'm like, fuck, like that's sick, that's so cool. But then in my head it's just like I look at the things that are going wrong for me, and then it's like trying to catch yourself and not having that like resentment towards someone just because they're doing well in a space that you want to do well in that you're not.
It's natural though. It's a natural, I think it's our natural instinct, but we can always look at it and straight away. I think it's natural for us to think that straight away, but I think we need to use it as fuel and kind of have this like fire lit behind us because of it.
Yeah. And
go, okay, there's pressure on me to do that too. And this is this whole concept around as the tide rises, all the boats do too. If you've got a really supportive and competitive friend group and the people around you, and you're all trying to achieve cool shit, use their success as fuel and realize that you're not going to build your biggest tower by tearing someone else's down. If you can be in a harbor that's got a rising tide and all the boats are rising too, that's where the success is going to lie, because use their success as fuel, then you succeed, and you're like kind of going like this. And I think you need to do that. And the thing that's crazy to me is people see someone succeed at what they're trying to do, and they go, how the fuck is that guy succeeding and I'm not? Instead of going, okay, that guy's succeeding, what is he doing to succeed? Let's copy that. And now someone might be listening to this on their run or something, and they let that go over their head. But actually think about that. Like when you are looking at someone succeed, our natural instinct is to go, fuck, why am I not succeeding in that same way?
Well, that's what you hold up a mirror to the other person's imperfections, the other person's flaws, the other person's things they're not doing right. And I guess the irony of like this is how you say copy and do what they do. The funny part was that because you know when you're obviously doing something and you're just trying to throw shit at the wall and hoping something sticks. Like I definitely have times in doing this, like doing podcasting, chatting with people, where I'm like, I think I'm like pretty good at conversating with people. I feel like I've got a pretty good message. I feel like I say some stuff that people would relate with or resonate with. And you say it and you say it and you say it and nothing really sticks. And like I have times of like self-doubt and be like, maybe I'm just not that good at this. Maybe I should do something else. And then it was quite funny, like when we did our podcast and they had like a few viral clips that went really far. And then when you even told me that our podcast has been your most downloaded podcast out of every single one you've done. And it's like, there's some validity in like, okay, because honestly, I think I've always had a lot of self-doubt. Even when I was competing racing, I was never like, I'm the best dude in the world. I was always just like, I never saw myself as being like the best or the guy kind of thing. And I know that definitely hindered my performance at times. And then coming into this space and then trying to do the same and having that same, like, is it good enough? Is it good enough? And then to see when something hits and you go, oh shit, there's actually something in that. But then it's funny because then I was like, okay, I'm going to copy that formula. I'll even post the same video and then it just flops and you're kind of like, fuck, like you can't expect it to go well as well, because it's also content that's already been out there as well. I know. I just saw from that other guy that you sent me as well that had literally no followers.
Yep.
Like the first video posted was something that I said and it got like 1.4 million and he had like 5,000 followers off it. I'm like, how is this random account blown up bigger than I have in like years of trying to post off something I said that was just, I didn't even edit it, just literally just put the whole thing.
Yeah. And look, there is a level of luck with that 100%, but also it just comes down to like what the algorithm knows what to push. It was his first video. And so it was just pushing it out there and seeing what people would think. People's first videos on accounts always go well. But I think when I look at it and go like, you're a phenomenal podcast host and it's great. And like we're having this chat today, not because I want to go on another podcast. It's actually just because I enjoy chatting with you and I know that we're going to have a good conversation doing so. But when I look at it and look at the success, the conversations are one thing, but the whole thing is getting eyes on the show. So it comes down to the short form content, right? So like you would know this. I hire your studio every week. How hyper obsessed I am with like, and I'm very strict with things. Okay, the camera angle there. All right, not too much headline. I'm gonna go and check these things. When I'm making the clips, okay, is everyone's heads in the same spot? And because I know that it's so much harder to track the camera quality, the captions, like the audios, everything I'm doing is so strategic. And I think making sure that that is the standard and I don't drop below that standard is why the success happens, because every single video that goes out has had the same effort that's gone into it. And they're all going there and I'm looking at the video, and after I finish editing it, I feel something. And like I'm going off feeling. And so like going back to your stuff, the conversations would be phenomenal. And got this amazing set. You can't get much better. But I think it comes down to the tiny little 1%ers that's like the icing on top. But what that icing does is it separates you from everyone else. And so if I'm giving you 3 bits of feedback right now, I would say the camera angles need to be aligned and straight, because too often I see someone's head down here and here with the clips. That would make so much difference all of a sudden. And I kind of go, you're spending so much time, energy, money on the show, may as well be putting in these little icing things. The captions, they're always blurry. I'm not sure why. And so like those little things as well might go, okay, that might be the difference between someone thinking that's a professional and that's, or it's not. And so those sorts of things is kind of like the little 1%ers. Your convos are great. You're a phenomenal host. In fact, you're definitely a better host than I am in terms of like filler words and all this stuff. You don't have any of this. But I just tried to obsess over making it like the greats do with everything that I do. And it's not like it's mountains better than yours in terms of clips. I just think it might be this much better, but this much better makes my head stick out of the crowd, and then it goes viral.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. It's that like final little bit to the puzzle. Because I just thought it's so funny, the comparison of like same studio, same, like it's all those things that are so similar, but then it's like, I'm like, why isn't this hitting more? Especially some of the, when you put, like you say, you have that feeling, you put a clip out and you're like, man, this is impactful. This is like making a difference, whether it's something I said or from a guest, and you get so hyped up on it and you're like, this is going to hit, and then it just flops. And you're just like, oh, it's pretty deflating, really.
100%.
So like,
you have to be able to not tie it to that outcome, as I said. But I think what it comes down to, it's a reps game of those pieces of content. And so like I'm doing 1 to 2 videos every single day on the page, and I'm trying to make sure I feel that way with almost everything I post. And so if you feel something from a video and you're doing it every day, and you feel it's not just a one-off every week, like you feel it with every video, like something's bound to work.
Yeah.
And that's why some days you'll see 2 videos in the one day blow up, because every video I'm trying to post is going for that feeling. And yes, they all don't hit, but if you do enough of them, they're going to hit. So even like your TikTok, you've had a couple that have blown up and got some good traction. Imagine if all the clips were at like this feeling of like so good, and then you just never know. And so you go, okay, I'm going to make sure I'm getting amazing content going out regularly and all of it's good, and then something's going to work. And then you tie that in with the guests and the different way of editing, and like making sure that if it's about business or motivation, don't have the gaps, but if it's emotional, make sure you show the pause of them spit, like all these little things, Yeah.
I think it's like you say, it's just keep showing up. Like it's funny in the, not the business world or world of like social media and that, like in the world of, I guess, connection and love, like my mindset is like, keep being a good person and eventually you will find someone. And it's like, I think to have that mindset, and you'll go into a relationship and it will fail, and you'll be like, that's all right. I'll fall on my feet. I'll learn from that. I'll keep showing up, and then someone will come along. It's like, you can't be the best version of yourself and someone not come into your life. That's how I think, and that's how I've always thought. I was like, I can't keep being a good person and like putting a good message out there and like obviously being healthy and fit and all these things, and the wrong person show up. So it's like, I need to take that mindset and then put it in into this. But like you say, like you keep throwing stuff at the wall and you're like waiting.
It's hard.
And it's funny because it's like I said, I've got to catch myself and just generally be like pumped for people, even people that, like for example, this is like a big lesson I learned. So when I first moved to the coast, I really wanted to just go like interview just anyone, and I was just like, oh, I'll just go like sit at a table in Burley and just chat with people, and I just like ummed and ahed about it because of the fear of like people wouldn't want to talk to me, or the fear of like reject. Like there was a fear, like you're kind of putting yourself out there, and like people might just say, oh, I don't want to do that. Anyway, I put it off, and then a friend of mine has actually started doing it, and he's blown up from doing it. And I was just like, man, like it's that whole thing. And it's like, obviously I can still do it, but then I get the mindset of I don't want to look like I'm copying someone, but then it's like, what's copying because he's not the first, you know what I mean? It's like the whole message behind it's like, if you want to do something and you have an idea in your head, do it before someone else does.
There's space for everyone though, because
I get that, yeah.
Because people resonate with different people. The same words can be leaving someone else, that my words can be leaving a 40-year-old black male or black female's mouth, and it reaches a completely different audience because the audience resonates with that person differently. We all look different. We all relate to different people. And that's why if you copy what I say and it doesn't get views, don't be disheartened by the fact that the message is the same but it didn't get views. I wrote that message. It's of course it's going to do well. You know? Like I wrote that from the heart, and then I delivered that in the way that I wrote it for that person. Like I've got a way more high percentage of success rate. And so it's one of those things. You mentioned just before about you have these like self-doubts, and even a lot recently you've been saying like, oh, like the studio, like it's tying me down. I want to get up and leave, and you have these doubts about the business and stuff. Do you think that's been like your biggest challenge recently? Just trying to kind of not run away, but like, do you think your biggest challenge has been trying to stick at something?
I think partly, yeah. I think like I want to have a good business in the creative space, and it would be cool to have people coming in, but that's not like a life goal of like, sweet, I've got a cool studio. Like my main focus, I guess, was like the podcast and traveling with the podcast. That's what I want to do eventually. Like I want to travel around the world and interview people in different countries, different places, like being able to see the world, being able to meet new people, being able to like engage in cool stories and just tell theirs and learn. That excites me a lot more than just sitting in a room and having people come to me. Like I want to go places and do that. So that was a big goal. I've always had that travel bug. And now I guess having this place is kind of obviously setting it up and getting it going is a big part, but it's like you feel a bit trapped. And especially when you're doing it by yourself, like there's like this is all me, which is great if it succeeds because then it's like all on you. But it's like you get to a point you kind of want to do stuff with other people. You don't want to just do everything by yourself. Like I don't really care about like if people praise me or someone else or like go in with something. It's like I'd rather share that. And like you said, like a high tide lifts all boats. Like I'd rather just get more people in my boat and go up with them kind of thing. So I don't know, man. It's weird. It's even just like, I guess, figuring myself out and where I'm at, because it's like I did something for the last 17 years and this is the first thing out of that. Like, so since I was like literally a child, so I was a kid. So you go from like not being good at anything and then finding a thing you're really good at and then becoming one of the best in the world at that thing and then stopping that thing and then going into something else that you're kind of not good at again and then having to like figure it out. And I do use the same mindset as I did with my racing, where it's like people are like, oh, another creative studio, there's a heap of them. I was like, I'll just make mine better. And it's like with the podcast, oh, another podcast, I'll just make mine better. Like if someone's like, oh, it's already been done, okay, I'll do it better. And it's like, if you have that mindset, and like you said, if you see how the people that are succeeding are doing it, copy them, but then add your own flavor to it, and then it'll probably be successful. But you just need to have that grind. And I guess I'm in this weird point where I'm like really drawn to like leave and just kind of have a reset. Like to be fair, like I have been grinding at this even when I was literally recovering from a spinal cord injury. I've been trying to build this place by myself. Like I've obviously had friends and stuff come in.
You haven't stopped.
Yeah, it's like financially everything. It's just like I'm just like throwing everything at it, and it's picking up momentum. It's getting more successful, and that is cool to see. But I also want to just be able to, like, I think I just need to literally go on holiday and just shut off from it, because I've been so, when someone's like, oh, what have you been up to lately? And I just think I've been coming to work and leaving work and coming to work and leaving work. And that's basically it. And I hate that, man. I hate that. I am building something, and I am having good conversations, and I am doing all these good things. But at the basis of it, I am just on a bit of a loop. And I really don't like that. And it definitely like wears away at me. Like, looking back with hindsight, if I could go back maybe 8 months ago before I signed the lease to this, I probably would have just gone on a big adventure by myself and just like shut off and had no worries and all of that, and actually recovered properly and rested and kind of like got my groundings. But I think I know in that time when I was in that point where I could have done whatever I wanted, this is what I wanted to do. And I remember I went down to Byron in my van, and I was going to keep going down south and go on a little bit of an adventure. I got to Byron, and I was like on my phone in the back of my van looking at warehouses, and I wasn't even like going out or seeing people or doing it. I was like, I want a warehouse. So it's like, hindsight's a beautiful thing, but what feels right in the moment is probably what you should do. And in that moment, this is what I felt like I should do. But now obviously, like, coming forward, it's like, okay, now I want to do that and want to do whatever else. But
it's always going to paint you into the person you're going to be, though. And like, if you wanted to do it in the moment, do it and disregard everything else. You can't control the other options, I think, once you've made one. And I just think leaning into that and doing that. I speak about this quote all the time, but it's my favorite quote from Steve Jobs. And he says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. It's like, you don't know where you're going to be in the next 12 months. But when you get there, you can look back and know exactly how you got there. And when you realize that, you kind of go, let's just do the things that feel right in the moment and disregard all the other options. And when we get to where we want to be or where we don't want to be, we can look back and know exactly how we got there. We're not going to know. We can't build the path yet. We're building it on the way. And like, there's no point and there's no value in spending energy on things that you can't control, which is alternatives to what you've already chose to do. So just focus on that thing and just do it. And if it doesn't work, you hang up the boots and you move on, you learn from it, you go to something else, and you're a year down the line, you're 2 years down the line. We've got another 80 to go.
Yeah, just saying yes to those opportunities. And I guess that comes back to now, like, you've just had an opportunity to go to Melbourne, and you're like, I can't say no to this.
Yeah.
Because it's just something that's come up, and you're just like, this, like, how could I say no to this opportunity? And you just jump on it. But I guess a lot of people might not. A lot of people would second guess and go, oh, but it's Melbourne and blah, it's this and it's that. And I've just set up here. And it's just like, the amount of times that you say yes to those things, your life, no matter which way it goes, you'll probably come out of it with a really cool story. And at least you'll know that, like, I'm glad I did that. Or if you stayed, you'll have that, you'll be always in your head, well, like, should I have got on the ship? Should I have got on the boat? Or should I have got on the plane? Or should I have done the thing? It's like, if you do it and you hate it, you can always come back.
Yeah, and then as you said that, I love how you're like, it's always going to have a story attached to it. You succeed, awesome story. You succeed, you set up, awesome. You fail, even better story. Because now you've got more highs and lows in your book. Because like the best books are the ones that have all of that. You're not going to read this book that's a linear journey. You want the characters to go on these big journeys of highs and lows, and they're down in this low and they don't have a clue how they're going to get out of this thing. And there's all this uncertainty and your bum's clenched a little bit. And you get to the next chapter and you go, oh my God, he met the love of his life. It's awesome. And then she cheats on him, and then all of a sudden he's back down again. That makes you want to keep reading. But when it's just like this, you kind of know where everything's going and it's boring. It's the uncertainty of the life or the book that we're reading that makes us engaged and want to keep going. No uncertainty, no interest. Shit life.
Yeah, what's on the other side?
Yeah.
Let's find out.
So for good or for bad, it's going to paint a story. And most of the time, it's always going to be good because it makes it interesting.
What do you reckon your lowest point was, and what do you reckon the biggest thing you got out of that lowest point was?
Lowest point. I think the lowest point, I had 200,000 followers on Instagram. Lowest point. I think it was late last year, around Christmas time. So 6-7 months ago. Around Christmas time, I was just been at this thing for so long and I had not stopped. Like when I left my job in May and I went all in on social media and blew up, I launched like 7 different products and I made $0. No one would buy anything. I couldn't get a brand deal. And so I was just stuck. And I remember I was just so mentally exhausted. I was just so drained. And I'd been wearing this mask for so long of just how amazing life was. And I just remember at the end there. But then in my mind, I was just saying, I was like, I can't fold, because having this success is what's unlocking all of these doors, and all these people are interested in me, and I'm unlocking all these other doors from all these people because they think that I'm successful. And so I remember and this was literally around Christmas time, where I go like, everyone is praising me, but it's Monday today, rent's due tonight, and there's no money in the bank. 0. In fact, negative. And it's funny, before the podcast you asked, what's the biggest lesson from your parents? I don't know where that was tying into this, but I'm bringing it up.
Bring it in now, bro.
And the thing that comes to mind straight away isn't a lesson. It's the belief they have in me now. It took a lot to earn that.
Because what did you say when I asked you that? What was the first reaction you had when I asked you that?
I was just like, fuck, I don't know how to find. Like, I don't know.
You said that's going to be hard to find.
Yeah.
Which tells me a lot.
Yeah. Well, the thing is I'm just striving. Like, I'm like so grateful for my parents, because they've just made me who I am, right? But I'm striving for such a different life. I'm striving for something that no one in my family has ever gotten anywhere near close to. So to do that, you need to learn from people that have. And I remember when I was trying to start out in business, and I lost all of this, like, friends, and no one believed in me, and they just thought this was like this, like, what are you doing, mate? Like, get a job. What are you going to do? Become a tradie? And anyway, the parents were worried too. Like, they were really worried with what I was doing. And I literally had to prove it to them. And it took a lot, that what I was doing maybe has an opportunity to work. But now, fast forward to now, they're my biggest fans. Mum listens to absolutely everything. She's listening right now. She listens to every single episode at 6 p.m. when it comes out on Monday, and she watches it on YouTube. And Dad's messaging me all the time. He was messaging me with a screenshot yesterday of my followers on the podcast page at 29.9 thousand. And he's like, you should be at 30,000 by 3 p.m. Like, and they're on it, right? And they're the biggest fans. But the thing is their belief in me was so important. My dad's belief in me was so important during this really low time last year, because I was fucking trying so hard, like absurdly hard at so many things. And I was working myself to the ground, and I was like, it's gonna work. And then it doesn't work. And then it doesn't work. And it was so fucked. Like, it was the most fucked thing. There's all these videos in a vault of me just crying in my car that I've not even opened since they happened. And I'm just going like, I am lonely. I have nothing. And like, I don't know what the fuck to do. And I do not know what to do. And I remember on Christmas, I drove up from Sydney and seeing the family, and I really wanted to put some effort into cards to write. I couldn't buy anyone presents, so I wrote cards for my mum, my dad, and I felt really cool to write one for my brother as well. I didn't write one for anyone else. and I just put so much effort into these cards, and I wrote them and got teary writing them, and I knew that I wanted Mum, Dad, and my brother to read them all at the same time at Christmas, and I just knew they were all going to cry, and I remember after they read the cards and I saw them all cry, I just broke down and I could not stop crying on Christmas Day. It was Christmas Day and I just could not stop crying. I remember after they read the cards, Dad and Mum split up, but they were at Christmas together. They were in the kitchen just talking about me or something, and I hadn't cried yet at this moment. This was after the cards and everything, and they were in the kitchen, and I remember I just looked at them and I just broke down, and it was like proper drenching in tears, and I could not stop. I just could not stop. And I remember just saying to them, I was just like, I'm fucking trying. Like, I really am, and nothing's working. Like, and I just remember him hugging me, my dad, and just going like, it's going to be all right. Like, you're doing so well. It's going to be okay. And I just cried for 20, 30 minutes straight. Like, it wouldn't stop, just tearing up. I'll read you the card I wrote my dad.
It's funny hearing that, and then, like, for me coming into your life, you've come into my life and been like, from the outside, like killing it, and everything's boosting and going, and everything's like, oh, this just happened, and this guy's just said this, and it's like that momentum of building, and then you hear something like that when you're like, I'm trying and nothing's working, and like that was how long ago?
It was
6
literally
months.
December,
Yeah,
and
7
things
months.
just took off. Yeah. And anyway, it was an early Christmas because my family always do an early Christmas. It's weird. I'm like, that's not how it works, guys. Like, you don't just do Christmas early, but they just do one a week early because they're separate. They like, one Christmas is with Dad, one's with Mum, but we did this early Christmas. But anyway, I wrote this to my dad. I've not read this since I wrote it. Merry early Christmas, Dad. This letter is really important for me. I feel you deserve to hear my appreciation. As I reflect on the last year, I get goosebumps thinking about how challenging it has been for me. By far the hardest year of my life to date. The amount of stress I have onboarded isn't something for the weak-hearted. This year has taught me many lessons. To keep going. Make sure my why is strong. I've learnt the importance of loving myself, loving the people around me, and more importantly, being critical with who I let hang around me. Going through a breakup taught me that love is real. It also made me look within and grow into a person that I'm beyond proud of. That relationship was probably the most life-changing part of the year for me. Dad, you have loaned me $11,000 this year. You have been the reason I've been able to stay at this path without being distracted by a job. You had no clarity as to what I was doing, but you trusted me. You backed me. You supported me through thick and thin, and I can't thank you enough. Nothing can repay you for that. Thank you for everything you have done for me this year. I feel so lonely sometimes on this path, and you're always there when I call. And as I sit here writing this card, I have $30,000 in debt and no money to my name, but I have this fire in me that things are about to dramatically change in my life. I look forward to reaping the rewards of all this extreme hardship I've been through over the years. You'll be the first person I'll share those rewards with. I love you, Dad. Chris. And fuck. And I wrote one for Mum too, and my brother. And I just remember how fucked it was. So,
and then where you are now.
And this is why I always talk about how quickly your life can change. Because it fucking can. Like, that was 6 months ago, man. And and now I literally, like, it's crazy. I'm about to employ my best friend, moving to Melbourne into a 6-star hotel with a billionaire. And he's buying my whole podcast set, and I've got the second biggest education podcast in the whole country. And that doesn't even scratch the surface to all the things that are happening in my life right now. But like, I was I was fucked. I was fucked. And like, no one knows any of this shit. No one knows about all the debt. No one knows about how much ridiculous belief I had to have in myself to be able to keep getting more lines of credit, to be able to pay for this social media life that was not paying me a cent, because I knew that I was making impact and I knew that if I stuck it out, something was going to work. And I had to be fucking delusional. Like, if you looked at what I was doing, I turned down $150,000 a year salaries to try and make stupid videos online. I say stupid, but I was helping a lot of people. But I was like, no, something's got to work. Like there's no other option. It has to work. And I literally was like burning myself out. I was working nonstop, like all day. I was getting up at 4 a.m. I was working till late. I couldn't even speak to my parents much because of how busy I was. And they still believed me, and they still followed along, and they still were up to date. And so when you ask me the biggest lesson from my family, it's not really the lesson now. It's more about the support and the belief that they've had in me in the last bit, since I've been really struggling and really lonely and losing heaps of friends and just feeling so alone and feeling like you're just, nothing seems to want to be working in your favor. And they were always there to support. It was them and Sam, and that was about it. So yeah, that's the takeaway from them.
Yeah. And I don't think we realize how much when we're supporting someone or just being like, you got this, man, it's all good, it'll work out. Like when you say that to someone, you never know the impact that actually has until you kind of hear what you just said, and you're just like, I needed that more than anything. But I just think about the message that I guess you're trying to push now, and it's like when you've been in it and when you know that point, like it's so hard to be a person that sends out a message of helping others when they haven't actually been at a point where they actually really needed help. It's like you said, you get those highs and the lows, and it's like you need to understand what it feels like to be high and to be low. And it's like when you're low, that's when, okay, I feel like I'm useful now and I can help people because I have felt this. I know what it feels like, and it sucks.
Yeah, I just look at it, and we said this at the start of the podcast, but all of that shit I hated. But I got to this level where I went through that much shit that I just started laughing because I know how amazing the story is going to be. And now when I have all this passion in my voice when I'm speaking on a podcast or on a video, like I fucking mean it. And I genuinely mean it with everything that I'm saying, with impact at the forefront. And I look at it and go like, your life can change. And I've been through so much shit where now when I was saying at the start about how I'm proud of how far I've come, like I can look at the life that I'm living right now and hand on my heart say, I fucking deserve this. Like this life that I have achieved, I deserve this. And no one can take that away from me. Like no, there's absolutely no one that can, because I'm the one that had to go through this whole lonely journey and do all this shit that I was the only one that believed it was going to work. And everyone else was right because it didn't fucking work. And I had to have that belief and have this delusion of it's going to work and do the most stupid shit, like get more credit lines and pay for my whole life on credit just so I could try and make this social media work out. I don't recommend anyone does that because it onboards the most amount of, like the most ridiculous amount of stress on your life. But now I've got comparison, and now I'm useful, and now I'm so grateful for everything that I've gone through.
You've done. No, I love it, dude. I think it's awesome. And it's so impactful to see someone, like you said, you going from somewhere and going to somewhere else and actually knowing that, okay, I started off at a really bad point. And I always say this, like no matter what point you are in life right now, it can get better. No matter where you're starting right now, you can become the best in the world, the richest, the most famous, the happiest, all these things. But it doesn't matter where you're starting. It matters how much work you put in from where you're starting. And that's going to determine where you go. Like you determine all of it. And stop being the victim, stop being boo-hoo me, poor me. My parents didn't help me. My parents didn't love me. My friends abandoned me. I broke my leg, I broke my back, I broke my neck. All this shit that you can come up with to be like a really good excuse at the end of the day is still just an excuse. So like you need to cut that shit out and go, what do I want? How do I get there? And who's going to help me get there? And once you do that, you're like, okay, sweet. This is where I need to go. But no, I really appreciate it, dude. We got to jump out because I think old mate's going to be jumping in. But
all good.
Love having you on the pod, man. It's always a good chat.
Appreciate you, man. And like, just I want to commend you as well. Just like you're fucking giving it a crack and
trying, yeah.
And like this studio is so sick, and I wish nothing but the best for all of it. And that's why I'm going to do my best to help you make it something big. And yeah, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate your time and your space.
Nah, sick, bro.
Thanks, brother.
All right.